live and wouldn't normally be live on this Sunday night because we would have been replaying the Imola Grand Prix post race show on Sunday night. But as you know, that's been canceled. I say canceled. We have to use that word carefully. It has been called off. Not, not officially canceled. That actually scared me, Casey. I was like, what the heck? Just me and Casey tonight, by the way. Jonathan Green is on an airplane back from vacation, got delayed.
Oh, no!
And
Oh,
yes,
mayhem!
causing mayhem on a plane, I'm sure. And Bob Varsha is on a plane back from, I was going to look, I can't even remember now where the heck Bob went, but he was doing some work. And going to grab Dave O'Neill because I was out at COTA all weekend for the SRO stuff out there, but he's still busy. So it's just you and me. And we got lots to talk about, though. Let me run down what we're going to talk about. First of all, we're going to get into Imola, why it was called off, and upgrades for Monaco. That is, if you don't believe the rumors that Monaco could get called off, that Tracy was just reminding me about. I did see something about that actually a few days ago. I don't hold a lot of stock in that, but I guess we'll see. But we're going to talk about Indy 500 qualifying. I hope you guys watched that, man. It was crazy, like all kinds of records set for the fastest, the tightest, and the knockout. Oh my gosh, how heartbreaking was that? We're going to talk all about that. And I did mention that I went to COTA. They had the SRO GT World Challenge Americas going on out there. And we had a local team. Dave O'Neill used to, be the Haas F1 team manager. He works here in Austin for S's Racing. He's actually one of the owners. And they were out there. They had a car out there, so I hung out with them. And our friend George Kurtz, who is the CEO of Crowdstrike, who, of course, Crowdstrike is the sponsor of our Formula One shows. And I caught up with him. We talked a little bit about his racing career, talked how they did this weekend, and we talked a little Crowdstrike and a little Formula One. So we're going to talk with him. And then later in the show, we had Chris Madeline did an interview with Jamie Chadwick, of course, racing in Indy next right now. But we got some miscellaneous Formula One stories we're going to talk about. And we'll check in with the folks on YouTube as well. But I want to start with Indy 500 qualifying. It was, if you watched it today, it was super exciting, man. It was, and the speeds, man, what did we see? 240. I know I saw 243. We saw 240 and 241 a bunch. And it's crazy that, I mean, I know it's quasi spec series, mostly spec series, but the fact that almost every car was right around the same speed, at least in, let's say, in the top 10 and then the next 10 down. But Alex Palou, the Chip Ganassi 2021 IndyCar champion, will lead the field to the green flag next Sunday on the 107th running of the Indy 500. He beat out Rinus VeeKay with a record-breaking pole run in the Firestone Fast Six shootout. And he started off with a 233.756 mile an hour run and backed it up with a 233.490 and a 232.962. And he set that benchmark of 233.158. And Dixon, who was going for the record third pole in a row for the Indy 500, did not get that record. But he started strong with his first lap, but he dropped to over a mile an hour on his second, and third and fourth were even slower. So he did not end up getting that record, but actually ended up finishing sixth, qualifying sixth. So, but yeah, Alex Palou, Rinus VeeKay, just stunning. What was it? I've got it written down. 6/1000ths of a second. It was just, yeah, 6/1000ths. Just crazy. It was the second fastest from back in 2012. So anyway, it was very, very exciting and lots of activity going on. And of course today they had the knockout, and we'll talk about that as well. But I'm just want to look at the rest of these. We had Rinus VeeKay in second, Felix Rosenquist right after that. But you know what? I do have a little clip. Casey, do you have the clip ready for Rinus VeeKay? Because he had he talked about something on live television that we got that they tweeted, so we can use it. And if you got that ready, Casey, we'll play it. Let's hear from Rinus VeeKay and see what he said.
Wish I had just a little bit more so tight. Should have took it down before this practice or had last lunch. But I mean, it's so close.
Yes, he did say that. I heard that and I was like, did he say what I think he just said, that he could have won the pole had he gone to the restroom or eaten less lunch? So yeah, but it was that was pretty funny. I thought I had to play that, but let's see what else on the sharp end of this, because you know, it was so fast though. That was the part that got me. They were so tight, and the one that kind of struck me, I don't know about you guys, but Santino Ferrucci. I mean, how many times has he had to resurrect his career? But clearly, he's always been fast, right? It hasn't really been his on track; it's been his off track that has caused Ferrucci his biggest problems. And he ended up actually doing really good and finishing qualifying fourth today. So ahead of Felix Rosenquist, and then Pato O'Ward, and then Scott Dixon down in sixth. And then Alexander Rossi, best of the rest, I guess you could say. Good run for him. And Takuma Sato right after him. And then, of course, Tony Kanaan. What a heart-wrenching story about Tony Kanaan. This is his last year. Of course, we keep saying it's his last year, but we don't know for sure if it's actually going to be his last year. So we'll see how that went. But yeah, what'd you guys think? Let me check YouTube. Mike Bowles says, hey. Joe Oyster Bay says, hey there. Andy P says, Indy qualifier was amazing. Love the NBC. And he says, I hardly say that coverage all week. It was good. It was really good, wasn't it? And the drama and the heartbreak for Graham Rahal. Awesomeness from Alex Palou, no doubt. I thought about you, Andy, when the McLaren boys were doing you proud. Yeah, hopefully it comes through next Sunday. And Monaco. Looking forward to that in Monaco. But yeah, the Graham Rahal, we got to talk about that, because that was crazy, getting knocked out the way he did. I mean, Jack Harvey, you saw it. He made a run and did not beat Graham Rahal. And with what? I think it was right about 2.5 minutes, they said he's going to do another one. So that ate up all the time. Graham Rahal did not get to do another one. And he just edged out Graham Rahal. And, you know, Graham Rahal was sitting in the car ready to go, watching it on iPad, and just heart-wrenching, because he relived the same nightmare his dad, Bobby Rahal, did 30 years ago, getting knocked out. So that was, and his heart-wrenching, that one was heart-wrenching. He was struggling to talk at that point. Actually, he was having a hard time with it. So that was really rough. But you know, I really love looking down the qualifying grid for IndyCar. There's just so many good stories. I'm going to talk about some of those later. Nice to see Catherine Legg made it in, and it's funny. I talked about Catherine Legg with one of the race drivers out at COTA this weekend, and it was oh gosh, it was Will Hardeman's co-driver. I'm drawing a blank now. Carol, and he was talking about. He said she is tough, because we were talking about the power steering versus other series in IndyCar, and we'll hear a little bit more about that, because Jamie Chadwick in the interview later in the show talks about the power steering and how that's one of the things she's really struggling with. So we'll talk about that. But oh, what are some of the other big stories? You know, Dixon missed. He had the opportunity to set that record, right? He was going for the third pole in a row, never been done before. And after his run, I thought, hey, he may have a shot at this, because it was fast, but it was just so tight and everybody was so fast. so he did not get to do that. But just looking down, Colton Herta, 21st. Ryan Hunter-Reay, Roman Grosjean, 19th. But I hope you guys enjoyed that because I thought it was really good. And if you did miss it, of course, it was on Peacock. And actually, I guess, I don't know. I think I just have like the regular version of it because it gives me all the IndyCar I want. But Peacock's, they covered a lot of it. Of course, they had it on the big NBC on Saturday. So, all right, well, I'm looking at the clock. Let's get a quick break in. And when we come back, Johnathan Green and I recorded a segment yesterday talking all about the cancellation in Imola and some upgrades. And we'll talk all about that after this break. All right, we're still live on the YouTubes. I was going to tell you guys, I replaced a fuel pump in my BMW. I bought an E39 540 6-speed off of Craigslist about a year ago. I don't know if I'll tell you all this, but I set up an alert for stick shift cars on Craigslist and said, I'm trying to keep some miles off my 911. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to see what's out there. And this thing popped up on January 2nd at about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And it hit my alert. And I immediately jumped on and looked at it. And I was like, oh, this looks interesting. So I snatched it up for just nothing. I mean, it's got a zillion miles. It's got a 250,000 miles, but it's an amazing shape. Everything works on this car. And I had to replace an alternator about, I don't know, 6 or 8 months ago. And it had a fuel pump go out. And I was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to drop the tank. And I thought, well, let me just YouTube it. And I realized how easy it was. You literally pop the back seat. All right, well, I'll tell you all about it more later, but it was super easy. And that was a quick break.
Hello to everyone, this is Gunther Steiner, this is Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
Thank you, Mr. Steiner. I'm still listening to Gunther Steiner's book. I know I keep saying it, guys. You got to listen to it. I mean, the hard part is his accent, but...
No, I'm not Jake. I'm Gunther.
It's a fantastic... I saw Les Kaiser this weekend out at COTA. All right. Well, hey, we're going to play this segment that Johnathan and I recorded because we talked all about Imola. We talk about the upgrades in Formula One and a little bit more. So let's play that with me and Johnathan Green. Johnathan Green, this Imola situation was a big surprise after a couple of days. As it got closer, I thought this could happen. But, I mean, I know you've been there many times, though.
Yes, I have. And it is very sad. It's basically Imola is between Bologna and Rimini at the Adriatic coast. So it's, if you like, it's the south of... It's the equivalent of the south of France in Italy. It's where all the Italians go on holiday in August, and I hope they've got it cleared up by then. But it's catastrophic to hear that in just 2 days, 6 months of rain came. And for Imola itself, it's even worse because of the river. That a lot of people don't know just how Imola is made up, but the river is the key.
It's right there, isn't it? It's right next to the track, and it's only a few feet of elevation from the river to the racetrack.
Yeah, so let me explain a couple of things. Imola itself, it goes back, I mean, the location is actually a gladiator park, but it's such an old, ancient Italian town with beautiful historic buildings and beautiful museums and so on and so forth. The track itself is, if you like, over the river, but nestle literally on the other side of Imola. So imagine a fantastic Rome-like built city, and then on the other side is effectively where this gladiator park was back in the day, and then it rises above on the other side to effectively vineyards and so on. But the river at Imola is tucked right next to the track. I mean, we talk about Andretti not being welcome to Formula One. This is one of those tracks where they struggle to get an 11th team. It's so narrow, it's so tight, because when you put the trucks in there, they are literally 10 feet away from the river, which in normal times would be fine. And there's an historical perspective here too. If you remember Tamburello, the second corner, or imagine, if you will, the start of Imola with the big tower on the right, and then it runs down to Tamburello. Now there's a chicane there. But when Senna went off there in 1994, he went through the gravel and literally into the barriers, and they couldn't be extended any further because the river was next. So the bottom line is, it's always had this compromise as Imola, and also around the track, it's a city. So people are living, people are looking over their balconies and can see the track. So it's always been confined geographically by this river. It's a fantastic venue for a Formula One race, but any chance of flooding, and we've seen the pictures, means it's almost impossible. And it therefore has been made impossible, because the geography of it, you can't do anything about it. If the river rises, there's just nothing you can do. I mean, you know, that's the way it is.
Well, and you know, this was an easy call in my opinion, because the rescue efforts that were already underway, I mean, they've already said that 8 people have died. The rescue efforts, can you imagine in the middle of all that, trying to bring in all these people to see a Formula One race, take all the resources away from rescue efforts and everything else? I mean, I hate to say it, but this was just an easy, you know, hate to say see an F1 race canceled, but this was an easy call. You don't want to disturb all of that trying to help people by bringing in a giant circus of Formula One.
Yeah, and in the bigger picture of Formula One, Maranello itself, Ferrari's home and Italy's passion for motorsport, is literally down the road. So in a weird way, while we think of Monza as a big race, that's in Milan. Imola is in the backyard. That's where Ferrari, when they're not at their home track of Maranello, that's where they test. That's where all the races are. So if you want to think about Ducati based at Bologna and Maranello just outside Bologna, this track is truly the home of Ferrari compared to Monza. So therefore, you're absolutely right. Under these circumstances, it would be abhorrent to run a race when 13 people to this date have died and many more are suffering. So it would be, in Italian politics, impossible to run a race under these circumstances, because everybody would say, no. Let's put our wherewithal into making sure that people survive and people get out of their problems.
Yeah, and it makes me think immediately of the decisions that F1 has made the last couple. I mean, look, the 2021 Belgian Grand Prix, that was just a nightmare, because it was the race was won, air quotes, by Max Verstappen, but the race was like the shortest race in history, and they decided to go on with it. It was like 4 minutes. You remember the rain? It was just a nightmare, and it was. But the reason I'm saying that is the contrast, right? This is a good decision made early instead of hanging around for hours. We sat around for hours waiting for that race to happen in Belgium in 21.
Yeah, and the big mistake they made is they didn't give any compensation for those that came to the race and saw a 2-lap race with Verstappen under the safety car winning. So to be honest, it was a political nightmare for Formula One and the sport, because it is one of the most popular races in Europe. It's a fantastic circuit, but they really didn't manage. It's like going to a concert that doesn't happen. Imagine ACL in Austin and it rains out. Well, you bought your tickets to see the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and it never happens. So who gets their money back? And unfortunately, they did not give the money back to the punters. Funnily enough, we could learn something from NASCAR here, where because of the way NASCAR is, you can run it on a Monday, and you can kind of bring people back if they're willing on that Monday. You don't expect them all to come back, but you can run a race the day after when circumstances perhaps and weather-wise are better. But I think that was the mistake at Belgium that time.
Yeah. And of course, the other one that comes immediately to mind, of course, is 2020, when, what was it? Friday morning, right? We were
In Australia.
In Australia. They were headed to the circuit, and because of COVID, I mean, to me that was another bungled decision by F1.
Yeah, I know,
because they could have done it earlier.
Yes, they should, and you're right. And it was a huge expense and expense lost to so many teams, and in fact, it was not a good communication system, because on Friday morning the crowds, regardless of COVID, were waiting in line to get in, only to be told at midday that day on Friday that there would be no action, not just that day, but for the whole weekend. And having been to that race, again, it was a mismanagement of PR for sure. And sadly, the Australians so much love that event. It's such a big part of Melbourne's sporting festival. As you know, the tennis tournament happens in January there, and that event was held in March. So if you are in the government in Melbourne, you really want that event to go on, because it kind of is the tennis and the Formula One are the two big events in their summer, which really define the sporting part. And as you know, the Aussies are crazy about sport, but that is their big international time. And everything else is Aussie rules or Super 8s, V8s or whatever. So this was they really didn't want to, call it off, but they had to.
Yeah. And speaking of calling it off, Imola has not been officially canceled. It has been called off. I mean, they're saying theoretically it could be in the later in the year. But I mean, looking at the calendar and thinking, how could they possibly even fit it in there? I just don't see a spot. I'm not saying no. I'm just saying it looks really unlikely.
I know the Italians and Ferrari will work hard to get it back on there because it's so important. And to be honest, again, another side of this is Imola has been off and on the calendar. There was a time, if you remember, Germany had a time where Hockenheim and the Hockenheim had two races a year. And at one point, Monza and Imola were mooted as two Italian Grand Prix, and that was felt too much. So Monza has stayed and remained, like Silverstone has been the stalwart of the Italian Grand Prix. But Imola came back, and after, it was felt after 94 that it would never come back in Ayrton Senna's demise. But they got it back, and so they really want to keep it because it's so important, like I said, to the Italian Tifosi, Ferrari fans, and to the Italian government and organizers.
And you know what? This has got impact more than just the skipped race, because there were some big upgrades. And of course, immediately comes to mind Mercedes. I mean, they had some significant upgrades. They've admitted as much as that they've just got it all wrong with this car. The concept, the zero side pad concept that they've kept the faith, but they've now admitted they've got it wrong. Toto Wolff said they've simply got it wrong. And now they're going to move this upgrade to Monaco. I mean, and they're big. They're like front suspension, bodywork, floor upgrades were all supposed to happen at Imola, and giving this whole car a more stable aerodynamic platform, right? But now we're not going to get those at Imola. They gotta bring them into a whole new circuit, and so all that research and all that is done it's going to really throw that off. And some other teams have talked about upgrades too, but this is really big for Mercedes.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Mercedes, but would we have seen those upgrades work at Monaco? That's my question.
Yeah.
Would have seen them work at a mid-corner speed circuit like Imola, not with a lot of straights, mind you, but with a lot of fast corners, with a lot of downforce needed corners like Aqua Minerale, and a lot of accurate racing, kind of similar to Miami in that respect. But you're absolutely right. Mercedes, it's a double-edged sword. You can look at it two ways. You could say that suddenly everybody's got a respite, and they've got another 2 weeks now. And they've got another 2 weeks not to work on Monaco, because Monaco is Monaco. You can't do anything to upgrade your car, particularly for Monaco. So yes, Mercedes may be rethinking it, although I'm become cynical since Miami, since we were there. about Mercedes sort of telling us that their car is terrible. Because actually, when you look at the results and you look at what they've done, it's not been that bad. Yes, they're not as, it's whose mind are you talking about being terrible? Red Bull are a second ahead, if not more, than everybody. So Mercedes think this is terrible. But Alpine and McLaren and Aston Martin will look at this opportunity at Imola and go, okay, we've been working on this and we were going to do this at Imola, but now let's work towards Spain, because Monaco is a, you know, you can't do anything at Monaco. It is what it is.
Yeah.
No downforce or ads or suspension ads are really going to change the result of Monaco. You have to have pole at Monaco. That's as simple as that. And everybody knows that, frankly, either Ferrari or Red Bull will be on pole, unless Alonso does what Alonso does and does a kind of a Senna thing. But you know, you'd bet on either Perez or Verstappen to get pole at Monaco. So my focus now is, okay, they've cancelled Imola. Let's look at Barcelona, where we can truly use our upgrades. So that's why I think now Spain suddenly becomes this very important race for the season. Yeah,
and I like your thought about Alonso. Maybe just a little moisture on the track at Monaco. I know that's, and we have
highly possible.
Yeah. But you know, Ferrari also had upgrades planned. They had revised upper bodywork and some rumors of a new suspension. So, you know, their speed in slow corners has been a strength this season, right? And it could really shine in Monaco, obviously, like you were saying, and especially given Charles Leclerc's, you know, proven speed in Monaco. So, I mean, it's really interesting to think about, you know, this cancellation and this next upcoming race in Monaco.
Yeah, and I also think that Formula One as a sport and as a almost science project, you know, is so planned out for the season, each and every season, whatever the races are, that with the China Grand Prix being cancelled and with now Imola being cancelled, I do think it gives an opportunity to throw things up in the air a little bit, because now Alpine are thinking, okay, we've got a fast car in a straight line. Now Williams are thinking, okay, we saw that our car is good in a straight line. We've now got an extra week of development kind of thrown at us for free. We're not going to use those resources, and we're not going to use that time and money to go to Imola because we didn't fly out there. That's a lot of saving. That's a lot of time on the drawing board. Not that there is one, but on the CAD. So I do think that this could, in some ways, throw things up a little bit in the air and give the smaller teams a chance to arrive at Spain, because Monaco, like I said, is a lottery, and you just
Monaco's Monaco.
Monaco's Monaco. And so it does mean that I will be looking closely in Spain to see how Alpine and how McLaren and how Aston Martin vie there, because they've got a chance now to really have a bite at Ferrari and Mercedes. That said, so too are Ferrari and Mercedes. Got a chance to do what they want to do.
Well, just to wrap it up, Johnny, when's the last time you've been to Imola? I know you said you've been there many times, but how long has it been?
It's been a few years. I did a lot of bike racing in Imola, World Superbikes. So when Formula One stopped going there in '94, after Ayrton Senna's tragic death and Roland Ratzenberger, we thought Imola would never make it again. And because of the river and because of the nature of being in a city with no room for upgrades, they did make the change to Tamburello, made it into a chicane and not a ridiculously fast corner. And that helped, but it allowed sports like World Superbikes to go there and give it some sort of gravitas when Formula One wasn't there. So I've been there probably about 6 or 7 times for World Superbikes, but I haven't been there for Formula One since it got back on the calendar. And it truly is one of my favorite events, because it's a great track. It's a very tough track. And I know we've been
an amazing setting. I mean, just crazy.
ridiculous. I mean, I'm not being funny, but if you look at turn 4, there is a house in the middle of turn 4 at the hairpin, and I've often seen on a Thursday afternoon or Friday morning practice, the woman putting her sheets out or doing her laundry.
I've seen those.
Yeah, the rumor is Bernie Ecclestone wanted to buy that house and take it over, but she refused to sell it. Good for her. But yeah, it's a real shame because Imola would have been a spectacular event and it would have shown us some of the upgrades we were expecting. It's not a street circuit, but because it's so narrow and in an old city like it is, it kind of feels like it. So,
sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Johnny, enjoy the rest of your, what's it called? Vacation? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, I've never heard of it. It's actually really, I highly advise it, John.
I got to try that one of these days.
Yeah.
All right. Greeny, good to catch up, buddy. We'll see you when you get back.
Yeah. Well, onwards to Monaco, I guess.
There you go. All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Well, let's get a quick break in. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little Formula One. We're also going to talk, we're going to have our interview with Crowdstrike CEO George Kurtz, not just a CEO, but a really good race driver. Back after this. Okay, I'll finish my silly story. So I found out all I had to do was literally pop the back seat on that BMW, and there was the fuel pump. I mean, I popped the back seat, and 10 minutes later, I was holding the fuel pump in my hand. That's how easy it was to swap, and that fixed it. That was my problem. It was hard starting and actually died on me a few times, but yeah, that was my I did that on the weeknight, just no big deal after work. I had something else for you guys let me check YouTube real quick. Oh yeah, I was just going to talk about spending the day out at COTA. It was good. It was really good. I'll talk more about the crowd. Actually surprised me. Now, someone from SRO told me that they had sold more tickets than NASCAR. It didn't look like that to me, but the fact that you could even have that conversation, SRO is really growing. I was really surprised. And it was a cool event, actually. And my son, who normally mechanics for the McLaren team, Andy, the sports car team, I should say. Let me clarify that. He was doing a little side gig, basically, working for the Austin-based Mercedes. And it's the S's Racing Mercedes-Benz of Austin. So he was kind of cool because he was kind of consulting. So he's like a bigwig now. So he was manning the fire extinguisher. And my wife told me if I don't come back with enough photos of our son working, she's going to kill me. So I had about 25 photos of him. And that was what I did on my kind of day off it was really cool. Like Joe was saying, not having Formula One, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do this weekend. Then I remembered COTA and got to spend the whole day out there yesterday. All right, coming back.
Hi, this is Jay Leno from JayLenosGarage.com, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
All right, welcome back. We're going to hear from Crowdstrike CEO George Kurtz here in just a moment. But while we're in the break, I was talking to the folks on YouTube about the SRO event, the GT World Challenge Americas event that went on at COTA. Really good turnout and something very interesting. I rode the media shuttle on the way in, but on the way out, I rode the regular shuttle with everybody, all the regular fans. And I heard a fascinating discussion from the people right behind me. And they were talking about, this is their first race at COTA, and they are Drive to Survive new F1 fans. And they were just excited about Drive to Survive. And they said, well, you know what? Somebody's been telling me it's an easy event to go to. And it really was. It was super easy, great, easy parking, easy shuttles. And they drop you off right at the paddock, which, of course, you don't get to do in Formula One unless you write big checks or know the right people. But it was really cool because these folks were just saying they were excited about Drive to Survive. And you know, we've talked about this, the rising tide lifts all boats, and how it's helping most, if not all, motorsports. And it was a purely anecdotal, but it was a great example of that, doing that, exactly that, because these people were just, they were there for just that exact reason. They'd gotten excited about Drive to Survive and decided to come out to COTA and check out some sports car racing. And it was really, really cool. You'll, in this interview with George Kurtz, if you're watching on YouTube, you get to see some of the good footage that I just took with my phone and all the cool cars, because I don't know how big the fields were, but there was multiple classes, of course. And by the way, they were running down to, like, I know I saw 204s. I think I saw 203s at COTA, which, as you know, that's as fast as a MotoGP bike, not in the straight line, of course, but MotoGP bikes hit like 210, 215. I think these cars were hitting like 165, 175. The fastest, maybe like 170. I think 175 is a stretch, but yeah, that's what George was racing in. So I got to sit down with him for just a couple of minutes. Let's hear from George Kurtz. We're out at Circuit of the Americas, and I'm very excited to have with me the CEO of Crowdstrike and race driver, George Kurtz. George, welcome back to Speed City.
Hey, great to be here.
Congratulations first on your win in the GT3.
Hey, thank you. GT America race was great. We managed to get out, I think, second lap to the lead, and gapped everyone. And overall, it was a solid race. The Crowdstrike Rally guys gave me a great car, so all systems were go for that, and super proud of where we finished.
How do you like coming back to Circuit of the Americas?
I love Circuit of the Americas. It's one of my favorite tracks in the U.S., and just given the Formula One heritage here and how technical the track is, you really have to be on your game on every turn. 20 turns is a lot of time that you can lose in each one, so it's challenging. The competition has been fierce this year in just in everything that we've been doing, and certainly in GT America with some stout competitors, some ex-pro, real pro folks that are in the mix there. So to get a win was fantastic.
Yeah, your co-driver for one.
Yeah, my co-driver Colin did a fantastic job in in the GT World Challenge. I brought it in first, and unfortunately there was some contact, and he got spun around. That's racing, I guess. But we'll recover, and we'll try our best for the next race tomorrow.
Well, I'm consumed with Formula One, so I don't get to watch GT World Challenge that often. But I was out here today, and it was really exciting. I think we're having trouble. And oh, there we go. Okay, it's playing out of. We're playing it out of the browser, so Casey's got to download it really quick, and we'll get it back going here. But yeah, man, it was really a great event, and the weather held up in Austin. I think it was like people were there with jackets on, and I was like, May in Austin? That is rare, because it was like, I think the whole day was in the 70s. I think it maybe approached 80 by the end of the day. But yeah, man, George is a prolific and really accomplished race car driver, besides being the CEO of a giant publicly traded company. All right, here we go. We're going to pick it up. I'm consumed with Formula One, so I don't get to watch GT World Challenge that often. But I was out here today, and it was really exciting. And, nice crowd, and I think people are really excited to have it back in Austin, to have, because it looked like people were jam-packed, and I saw people watching all the cars, filming all the cars coming out. They're having a blast.
Well, SRO puts on, I think, some of the best GT racing in the world. If you look how close all the cars are and how great all the drivers are, up and down, all the pros, all the AMs, I mean, it's incredibly competitive. Anybody can win, really, on any weekend. So I think we put on a great show for the crowd here. Lots of folks out. We were really excited. And I'm glad we're back, and hopefully it stays on the calendar for the future.
Well, it seems like I look up and you're racing every weekend, George. You have a packed race schedule in addition to your CEO duties.
Well, you got to try to fit it all in, and we've been doing 2 programs, SRO, 1 at IMSA. We're getting ready for Le Mans now. And it's just been a great year, and just try to be as competitive as we can for as long as we can. And, hopefully everything aligns for us, and we'll see where things shake out. But really, we're just taking it race by race.
Well, do you get a chance to watch the Formula One coverage? We're 5 races in. Have you had a chance to watch much this year?
Yeah, actually, I just was at the Miami race, and obviously I'm part of the Mercedes team, if you will, and I hope that there's some upgrades that are coming. So I hope it actually all pans out. But it's incredibly tight, and we got great drivers on the Mercedes side, and it's just, again, super competitive. It's good for the fans to see things get shuffled up. Obviously, the Red Bulls are super fast at the moment, but we'll see what some upgrade brings, and never count out Mercedes.
Yeah, they had I was looking at the list of upgrades they were going to bring to Imola, of course, which was canceled, and it was about half the exterior of the car, it felt like. So I'm excited to see how that strategy works, bringing it to Monaco, and how much of that, because clearly a very different place, Monaco.
It is. I mean, there's so many differences in how you run the car. Even I think the steering locks are different there, just to get around the hairpin, and super hard to pass. But I'm personally excited. I know the Crowdstrike contingent is excited for Mercedes upgrades, and I know the fans are. Everyone wants to see as competitive racing as possible, and obviously the Red Bulls are dominating at the moment, so hopefully we'll have something to put to them.
Well, having your Crowdstrike safety car out in the front of the Formula One field, I have to admit, when we post those on social media, we get as much reaction to those because it's such a striking car, and the livery, it's amazing.
It's great to see the car out there, and I got to know Bernd Mailander, over the years. He's a fantastic guy. Some of the races like Spa a few years ago, I think we led every lap. So it's good to see us out there leading laps. But, obviously when there's a safety car, we're not racing, but I think it's good. It's good visibility for us, and it's been great for the Crowdstrike brand.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that business is booming at Crowdstrike with the never-ending attacks on digital. It's just crazy.
Well, that's the thing at Crowdstrike. We take our technology and our racing seriously. Just like in the cars, you got to have the best technology and the best team to win. We've been focused on that for 11, 12 years since I started the company, and we've got some fantastic customers, and our whole goal in life at Crowdstrike is to protect customers from breaches, and we're singularly focused on that. So I want to thank all of our customers, and again, when you see us out at the racetrack, say hello, and we look forward to seeing everyone out there.
George Kurtz, thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Great. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you soon.
All right, we're going to go straight to break, and when we come back, we're going to play that interview that Chris Medlin did for us with with Jamie Chadwick. I was going to say Catherine Lake. Jamie Chadwick, back after this. All right, Casey, what do we got? 1 minute? Yeah, I was just going to tell you guys that George Kurtz was really nice, and it's just crazy that this guy is a CEO of a publicly traded company, and he just freaking loves racing. I mean, he is, and clearly a good race car driver. He was really cool. Hey, I got some good news too. The Wheel to Wheel show that Chris Medlin and I do on SiriusXM ESPN. We've got a new sponsor, and you may have heard of them. I'm going to announce it here because they're official. It's VMware, another tech company, and VMware is going to sponsor our Wheel to Wheel show and our Saturday show, because VMware and Crowdstrike are kind of a conflict, so we're going to put them on our Saturday show, which of course we're going to, hopefully, I'm sure Monaco's going to happen, but we'll do a post-qualifying show on Channel 81 on SiriusXM, of course, the same channel as the pre- and post-race shows. All right, here we go.
Hi, this is Max Verstappen, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
All right, welcome back, Gearheads. This interview that we're going to play is Chris Medlin did it and for us, and he did it while he was in Miami with us, and while Jamie was there, Jamie Chadwick, of course, who just dominated is the best way to put it, the W Series, but is not dominating in the Indy Next. They used to be the Indy Lights. So let's hear Chris Medlin with Jamie Chadwick.
So, Jamie, thank you very much for joining us in a very loud Hard Rock Stadium right now as some Porsches are flying around, literally around the stadium. I bet you'd love to be out there in a car right now, wouldn't you?
I would. I think it'll be very hot inside one of those Porsches. But yeah, I think after last year driving here, I definitely feel better about being in the car than in the paddock. But still, it's nice to be back at Formula One and you're back at the Miami Grand Prix.
Well, yeah, back at Miami Grand Prix, but you've been spending a lot of time over here. How are you finding life in the US?
Good. I mean, I'm not sure I can yet call it a home race, but still, it's been a really cool year so far. We've been over in the States racing in Indy next, which is all based in North America, following an INDYCAR. We've only had 2 races, but still, yeah, loving it so far. And very different experience to what I've come from, but loving it.
So what's your setup over here? Like, where are you basing yourself while you're tackling it? And are you full-time based here, or do you kind of travel between the two?
Not full-time yet, so our season isn't too compact at this point in time. It's getting a bit busier, but the team are in Indianapolis, so I'm spending quite a bit of time over there, meeting and spending time with a lot of the drivers that base themselves there, which is cool. And I think for the month of May, for the 500 especially, that place is going to come alive. So it's cool.
Yeah, it's amazing, I tell you. Like the buzz, it's well, a bit like this here. Like, there's a huge buzz around Miami. But let's focus on Indy next first. A big step up from previous years. How are you finding it?
Yeah, definitely a big step up, and there's just a lot of new things, new tracks, new team, new car, new everything, new experiences. I've got ovals coming up, so it's just adapting to that, learning it, but I'm really enjoying it. I mean, it's a challenge, but I definitely see, it's possible to overcome, and I definitely think I can get some good results with the team I have around me. So it's been tough. I've learned a lot, but yeah, there's a long season ahead still.
Yeah, I mean, what is the challenge like? What are the things you have to overcome? Because I guess until you get in the car and drive it, and I guess race it more than anything, you don't really know everything you're going to face.
Exactly. Like most junior motorsport, you don't get much time in the car. So a lot of the tracks, I turn up for the first time at the race weekend. So you learn in the track whilst trying to learn everything else, on a Friday of a race weekend, which isn't easy. It's the same for a lot of people. But the other side is it's a lot more physical than what I've come from. And that's something I've been working on, trying to get stronger, trying to get a bit bigger. It's something I'm working on. We're getting there.
Yeah, do you see gains? Because I always find it fascinating. I think people underestimate because they just see someone turning a wheel in a car, but the fitness level you need and the impact that can have. Do you notice it, like race on race, or every time you get out in the car that work is paying off?
Definitely paying off, and it's just seat time I think I need. I just need to be in the car more to adapt a bit better. Fitness-wise, I feel like I'm getting to a better place. They're longer races, so that's been a bit of a tricky thing. But yeah, just getting the muscle on, getting stronger. We don't have power steering in these cars. Some of the tracks we go to have no rest. It's just getting up to speed with that.
Yeah, is that a challenge you were expecting physically, or has it been bigger than you thought?
Definitely bigger than I thought. When I tested the car, it wasn't so bad, and we were pretty competitive in testing. But we've changed tyres, which on the one side is great because we're going faster and the lap times are quicker, but on the other side, it's become more physical. The weight of the steering's become heavier, so it's something that I've had to work on. The team have been amazing at working with me. In the past, it's kind of been like, just deal with it. Now they are working towards bringing it to me a little bit. So, hopefully that can come to us a bit in the second half of the year.
And speaking of the team, I mean, you're still part of the Williams Young Driver program. Like, how they help you from afar, I guess, from the other side of the pond?
I think Formula One is always going to be the pinnacle of the sport. So, to be able to have access to this level, the level of the engineers, the level of support that I have access to is so important. And with the training, they use Hinter, which has got a network that is huge. And so for me, it's useful to have that. As well, I think the time on the simulator, I think the more I can develop for this level, the more it's going to help me at the level I'm at. So, it's always useful. And it's great that I can stay a part of the team.
Is there anything specific you can do for Indy Next with Williams, or is it more, like you say, just kind of all-round driving stuff that you do?
I think the difference of Formula One and many other championships is just the level of technicality. So the more I can develop technically, the better I'm going to be in everything. So developing that kind of technical knowledge, understanding it, developing the feedback that's required of a Formula One driver is only going to help me in Indy Next. So that's a big thing, but also the physical side of it. Being able to lean on the guys that work in Formula One and at that level helps a lot.
Now, having moved though to the US and now on the INDYCAR ladder, so to speak, like, does it change the path you're looking at? Are you looking at wanting to race in INDYCAR in the future? Are you hoping this is just a stepping stone towards F1? Like, what's it done for your outlook?
We'll see. I mean, I love INDYCAR. I love the vibe over there. I love the racing. So of course that's something I'm looking at. But I think at the moment, looking just short term, I just want to get results in Indy Next. And after that, we can see what opportunities come around. But without results, there's nothing to show for it. So yeah, that's the focus at the moment.
Do you think it could be a pathway that other drivers look at, though, that, you know, as you come through, if maybe Formula 3 and Formula 2 aren't open, that Indy Next would be a good way to go?
100%. I think the difficulty with Europe is there's so many more drivers now coming through, but not that many seats or opportunities. So America's a great opportunity for that. I really like the way they structure the scholarship program. So if you win, you are rewarded. So you don't always need to have massive financial support if you can have success. And there are commercial opportunities. I'm so lucky to be supported by DHL and Williams over in this championship. So yeah, there's more opportunity there for me to be able to go racing at this level.
Yeah, I remember you saying when you were looking into Indy Next that might be one of the things that was more attractive. I mean, how tough was it if you were looking at, say, Formula 3 or Formula 2? Like, why was it lacking there?
I think a few factors. I mean, commercial partners that, you know, have come in to support me. I'm very lucky. DHL already have the existing relationship with Andretti. Andretti are also helping support me, which is a big part of it. But yeah, I think over in Europe, there's a lot bigger picture that goes on behind the scenes, the private testing, everything you need to do to be prepared, and it's not easy for anyone. So yeah, unfortunately that didn't work out, but I'm very happy with the decision we made.
Yeah, sorry to kind of spin it this way, but you mentioned racing here last year and things not working out. W Series isn't here this year because it looks like it isn't happening anymore. No official comment from the series at this point, but how sad are you to see that championship's not continuing right now?
Really sad. I mean, it's what gave me my break. It's caused me to be sitting in this position now. So yeah, I am very sad about that not continuing, and I think it has been super beneficial for women in motorsport. The F1 Academy as well is going to help, but yeah, I think with regards to W Series, and especially off the back of last year and the great memories that I had, it's sad.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned F1 Academy there. Is that a good thing to see, though, that I guess opportunities were so tough coming out of karting to step up that at least that's being slightly opened up a bit more?
Yeah, definitely. I think that kind of grassroots level, now you're seeing a lot more girls starting in karting now with F1 Academy as well, that helps. We're still yet to see much more happening at this kind of higher level, and particularly closer to Formula 1, but still it's fantastic that there's already so much work that's being done, and I feel like now it's becoming more a matter of time, which is cool.
Yeah, but it still is we're talking about 2 championships and only one that's managed to continue, and that's a small field of drivers that get an opportunity to race cars on an equal footing, I guess, and then they're expected to go into further championships like you've done at Indy Next. Do you think people have maybe still not quite grasping the difficulty to progress up the ladder through such a small pipeline?
Definitely, and I think the challenges do get greater the further up you go for everyone, but particularly for women, it gets more and more physical and more tough. So that leap from F1 Academy or F4, whatever it is, it's a big step. So it's not going to be easy. I think more we can do to kind of look at how we can make that pathway clearer from the level that they're at all the way to the top. But I think there is more support. You know, Mercedes have female talent in their academy, Alpine have female talent, I'm with Williams. So there are more Formula 1 teams that are coming in to help, which is also very important.
Does that become competitive, though? Do you start looking at those other female talents and be like, yeah, but I've got to stay ahead of these guys, I want to be the leading light?
No, honestly, not at all. I never anything the opposite. I think whatever I do in this sport, be it have success or not, I just want to make sure that, you know, the next young female coming through has a better opportunity. And I mean, my opportunity's been huge, but I want to see women in Formula 1, and if that's not me, I honestly, I don't care. I'd rather, you know, a super talented young girl that's maybe 8, 9 years old now has that opportunity as well. That's
a great outlook, but let's just focus on you then to finish. Like, what would be a successful year from here on out for you? What would kind of you be happy with from your development with Indy Next and I guess with Williams too?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really putting it like a number or making it black and white. I think I want to be fighting at the front ultimately. I want to be competitive. I think I'm not where I want to be at the moment, but I'm confident that I can get to that point. And then, yeah, I ultimately want to see it as a 2-year program. So if I have the opportunity to come back next year, come back with the opportunity to be winning races. So putting myself with the best foot forward this year to have that.
Good luck, and thanks for joining us, Jamie.
Cheers, thanks, Chris.
Yeah, I thought maybe the most fascinating part of that discussion was when she was talking about, touched on earlier, about the strength, the lack of power steering, and the difficulty getting used to that part of it. I was actually talking, Adam Carrolls, who's the guy I was talking to at COTA, and he said that doesn't surprise me. He said that's it's a big deal, and that's going to be a challenge for a lot of women in that end up coming through the IndyCar ladder. But all right, we're almost out of time. I wanted to talk about next weekend. It's our Super Bowl, boys and girls. We got Monaco in the morning, and we got Indy 500 after that. And we got Carb Day in between. Let's see. So our schedule next week is Wheel to Wheel, Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, me and Chris Medlin. And then Friday, this isn't our schedule, but Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 Eastern is the final IndyCar practice, which is Carb Day. And then Monaco, our coverage is Saturday morning post-qualifying, like we talked about earlier, around 11, but right after qualifying, whenever the BBC goes off. And then, of course, on Sunday morning, we do our pre-race show starting at 8 a.m. Eastern, and the race, and followed by the post-race right after that. All right, well, thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and I appreciate y'all sticking with me on a solo show, and all the boys will be back next week, and we'll talk to you then.